Judge Judy.
Yes.
Let me ask you right off the top here, if, looking back on this past year, has the temperament of the court or the deliberation of the court changed in the post-Chief Justice Tom Moyer era?
Well, I'd have to say that we are really still grieving the loss of Chief Justice Tom Moyer. He was the longest serving Chief Justice in the United States, and now of course we have someone new, and we also have the potential of voters choosing the Chief Justice that they wish for the next full term.
Do you, I guess it leads to kind of this question of when you sit up there and you look to your left and right, it leads to the question of whether that court is diverse enough. Does it represent the state of Ohio, in your view?
Well, you know, Jim, that's always interesting when they talk about diversity and the justices representing people. That's kind of a misnomer, because when you think about it, the court doesn't represent any one segment. The fact that I'm a registered Republican is a fact, just like I'm a Polish American, that's a fact. I'm from Toledo, that's a fact. And all of those facts are there, but what's most important is the philosophy of the justices on the court and how they approach the job. That's what I think voters really need to dig into and find out about the people running.
Tom Moyer sat in that very chair less than a year ago and said, as he was looking at the end of his career on the high court, said that money was playing too big of a role, that the election of judges was the wrong way to go, that we needed merit selection and we needed a new way to appoint judges, to create a way to appoint judges. Do you share that vision? Seemingly in this campaign, I've yet to find a candidate who has the same passion for that Tom Moyer did.
Well, certainly the passion that he had for integrity and independence of the judiciary, no one can match. My feeling is that no matter how we select judges, there's always going to be politics involved, because you have thousands of attorneys who would like to be a judge, and there are only 720 active judges in Ohio. But money, right now, plays an important part to get a message out in Ohio. You've got all the major media markets that takes money to get a message out. My feeling is that whatever selection process is chosen, it'll be the voters who decide, because it'll be a constitutional amendment. I welcome the idea that we look at how we select judges and then let the voters decide how they want to do it.
On the subject of politics, Maureen O'Connor, your fellow justice who is running for Chief Justice, has proposed an idea where we would get rid of all party labels in the primary as well as in the general election. The Democratic Party is suggesting party labels be applied in the general election as well as the primary. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that that idea is one that would explain to people that we really are nonpartisan. Just as I explained, label doesn't make the difference in the outcome of how a justice votes. Without any label at all, either in the primary or in the general election, voters would really have to look at what the justice candidate was saying about how he or she would approach the job. And I think that would be a good thing, because sometimes I think people look at party label and they use that as a shortcut for their vote. They really shouldn't do that.
So you don't think people would look, like you said, you're a registered Republican, people wouldn't look for that information?
Well, people have told me in the race that they find it helpful. And certainly we want as much information about ourselves out there. And I know that you mentioned we have websites. Mine's jjudy.com, which is always easy to remember. It has more information than people could ever want to know about me. So I would never say, let's tell voters they should not have information. But what they should look for in a justice is what I'm emphasizing. They should see what we stand for and how we approach the job.
Those of us who have watched the court for the last 10 years or so, putting aside party labels for a second, I think basically the consensus would be it's a conservative court. It's a pro-business court. You guys haven't ruled on cases involving abortion or gay rights or anything that might be social issues that would be real hot button, but on anything where it's kind of a business versus consumer or business versus trial lawyer type case. For example, the Arbino case dealing with liability for medical products, that was a 5-2 decision, I believe, in favor of the company that made the defective medical product. Would you agree with the characterization that it's a conservative court? Would you say it's a pro-business court, or would you even take issue with those labels?
I would take issue with those labels. First of all, you need to understand that the Supreme Court is reactive. we take cases when the General Assembly has enacted laws and there's an issue that needs to be interpreted because it may be ambiguous or people have never looked at the case before. And we have every 2 weeks approximately 100 separate cases that come knocking at the door of the court. We probably, it takes 4 people to vote to take a case in, and we probably take 10% of those cases that want to come before us. So there are 90% of the cases which can involve individuals who have been harmed and individuals who have been plaintiffs and have won, where the other side is attempting to get before the Supreme Court. We don't take those cases. So those cases are over and done with, and the plaintiffs may in fact have won. So the idea of a pro-business court, I think, is totally wrong. What I would say is that a majority of the court believes in judicial restraint. It believes in deferring to the General Assembly because that's where the laws are made. We understand we don't enforce the law, we don't make the law, we interpret it case by case. And if it turns out the General Assembly is creating law that relates to business or industry or it relates to consumer protection, we are going to take those cases of general public importance and then make a decision on those. As far as your social cases that you mentioned, Jim, that is, again, an issue of what comes knocking at our door and what 4 justices have decided to take in.
The Ohio Chamber of Commerce and the U.S. Chamber have been active in at least the last 3 or 4 election cycles, and they've generally supported the Republicans. I know you shy away from that label, or they've supported incumbents, including you. Do you welcome that support, or what do you think that says to the voters?
I welcome every support I get, and my website will show the vast array of endorsements that I have, including unions as well as industry and everything in between. And I think that means that people understand, based on my record, I'm fair, impartial, open-minded, and neutral. I'm not there for any particular group. I'm there for every single Ohioan. That's what I bring to the court. I've done that for the last 6 years as a justice, and I would do that in a second term as well.
I wanted to ask you about this website, Vote to End Injustice. You and some other members of the court have expressed some concerns about this. It urges support for Democratic candidates and criticizes some specific rulings. Is this not just the kind of thing that we're starting to see now in other races as well? I mean, an outside group sets up a website and you know, what's wrong with it?
Well, Karen, that's interesting because we just got word from the Ohio State Bar Association that they did find things wrong with that particular website as far as the Clean Campaign Pledge goes.
Which you all signed, all the ones
which we all signed,
running.
And I would hope that the opponents who are benefiting from that site will now look at what they have heard from the State Bar Association and come out and say, no, this is not right. This is not something that we should be doing to tear down the court, because we want people to believe and to know that their court is operating in a very independent, open-minded way. We are not trying to be against consumers. We are not trying to be pro-business or pro-medical. That's not how we operate. And people who think that we have an agenda that we're pushing really don't understand the court. And anyone who intends to come on the court and push an agenda or be solely for a particular group probably doesn't belong on the court. If they're legal reformers, if they have an issue that they want to see as part of state law, they should be going to the General Assembly, because that's where laws are enacted.
Is that a case where you believe that your opponent, Judge Trapp, would be a judicial activist on the court? We typically hear Republican candidates, whether they're running for Congress or the legislature or even the court, talk about how conservatives believe it's the job just to look at what laws have been passed rather than legislate from the bench. Although she sat here and said basically what you have said. So is that a partisan taint, sort of Republicans believe the Democrats will be judicial activists? Is there any proof of that, and is that one of your concerns?
No, that is not something that I have been saying. What I tried to do in terms of distinguishing myself from Judge Trapp is that she talks about 25 years as somebody in the field, but she's been an attorney for a vast majority of her time. And attorneys and judges develop very different skills. When you're an attorney, you're working for one side. You're becoming an advocate. You take that job very seriously. You're representing someone. Judges, on the other hand, have to be open-minded, neutral, fair, impartial. They have to be globally aware. When you compare the difference, when you look at the difference, she has been a judge not even 4 years. I've been a judge 25 at every single level of the judiciary. That's something that no other justice has. No other justice has an advanced judicial degree. I teach judges throughout the nation. It's the experience that I'm going to emphasize against my opponent. I would never say what she would do on the court. That's for her to tell you.
All right, very good. Always like to call everybody immediately and tell them I spoke to Judge Judy today.
Great. Thanks, Jim.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
James Nash, along with Karen Kasler.